You ever walk into a room and just feel every pair of eyes on you, even before you hear the first whisper? That's what happened to me that morning at Fort Braxton, rolling into the base commissary wearing my old, faded military jacket, the sleeves frayed, the color long gone. You know, the type looks like it's seen a few lifetimes and maybe a bar fight or two. The young officers behind me, they didn't even try to hide their snickering. Bet she dug that out of a thrift bin. One of them hissed, not quite under his breath. I just kept my head down, focused on the shelves, picking out cans and boxes, pretending their words were part of the background noise. What those kids didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that every thread of that jacket held stories they weren't cleared to even imagine. That silence? It wasn't ignorance or embarrassment. It was the weight of missions too classified for anyone to acknowledge. Dawn at Fort Braxton hits you with military precision, sunlight sliding down flagpoles and the sound of boots hitting the blacktop, everyone moving like parts of a machine. At 55, I still carry myself straight as a rifle, except for the limp in my right leg that never really went away. That morning, as I walked in, nobody saw a war story or a survivor, just an older woman in a jacket too old for the times, shopping like anyone else. But let me back up a sec. That jacket, not just nostalgia. It was the first thing I grabbed that morning because the air bit with a little chill, and maybe, just maybe, because it made me feel a bit less invisible. Inside, the place was alive with the usual chaos: young families wrangling kids, retirees catching up over weak coffee, soldiers grabbing energy drinks before PT. I moved slow, deliberate, consulting my neatly folded list, counting every dollar, because these days the VA benefits that were supposed to keep me afloat were tangled in red tape and missing files for missions that officially never happened. I could feel the stares from the two lieutenants trailing a few steps behind. Speaking of shortages, one muttered, eyeing my jacket, and the other fired back, "Looks like she survived World War II." I could almost laugh at how young and sure of themselves they sounded, except that every word had an edge, you know what I mean? My hand shook a bit as I reached for a box of pasta on the top shelf, not from nerves, but from a shoulder that'd never heal right, a little reminder of a night in the desert I'm technically not allowed to remember. The lieutenants followed, louder now, making a show for a couple of enlisted guys who joined in, trying out their best jokes about stolen valor and discount days at the VA. I kept moving, biting back the urge to turn around and let them have it, because the fight wasn't with them, not really. It was with the system that made it easier to question someone's service than to recognize it. At the checkout, the cashier, a retired master sergeant I could tell from the faded cap, gave my jacket a second look, maybe recognizing the ghost of a patch above my heart. He said nothing, just scanned my groceries with the efficiency of someone who'd seen it all. "Have a good day, ma'am," he said, and those were the first words I'd spoken to anyone that morning, my voice coming out rough and used. After paying, I shuffled toward customer service to verify my address for my latest round with the VA, one more attempt to unlock benefits tied up in missions that never made it to the record books. The process was as familiar as it was humiliating, the young clerk looking uncertain as I handed her a folder full of official-looking documents and a letter from the DoD records office. "Sorry, we need standard documentation," she said, calling over her supervisor, who delivered the same rehearsed apology I'd heard too many times. "Your papers aren't enough." Behind me, the lieutenants snickered, and I could feel a small crowd gathering, some curious, some enjoying the show. And then, just as I was about to leave head up, groceries in hand, pretending I didn't care, the doors slid open, and in walked General Marcus Harris, flanked by aides, deep in conversation. He almost passed me by, eyes scanning like any career officer, but then he saw the worn patch, or what was left of it, above my heart. He stopped. Everything went quiet, the whole commissary holding its breath. Then, right there in front of everyone, General Harris snapped to attention and saluted. Civilian setting or not, he made it count. I froze, then returned his salute, every muscle remembering what it meant to stand tall. "Captain Reeves, Spectre Group, Tyran 03, he said, his voice both a statement and a question. "Yes, sir," I answered, and suddenly, 22 years collapsed into a single heartbeat. Around us, People started to realize they weren't witnessing some thrift store drama, but a piece of history breaking through the surface. Your unit got us out, the general continued, his voice softer, but every word ringing out. 32 of us, including me. I nodded, those memories I kept locked away, coming back sharper than ever. 3 helicopters down, sandstorm closing in, and 6 of us holding the line so the diplomatic team could escape. How many made it home? He asked, though I knew he already knew. 3, sir. I'm the last. The general's jaw tightened. Would you join me for coffee, Captain? He said, and we sat in the cafe, the crowd watching as the lieutenants shrank into the background, their faces pale. Over coffee, General Harris got right to the point: my VA appeals, the classified records, the injuries that never officially existed. That ends today, he said, dialing his phone right there, issuing orders with the kind of authority that makes walls move. Your service will not continue to go unrecognized, he promised, and for the first time in years, I believed it. The 2 lieutenants' faces flushed, confidence gone, approached and apologized, their words awkward but honest. I told them the truth. We operated in the shadows so others could work in the light. General Harris backed me up, reminding them that some lessons you learn the hard way, and it's better to learn them early. After that, the atmosphere in the commissary changed, nods replacing whispers, respect growing where there'd been suspicion. 3 months later, I walked into that same commissary, but everything was different. My jacket was still old, but it had been cleaned and mended, the Spectre group patch restored, and a presidential unit citation pin catching the light. My limp was lighter, thanks to the medical care I finally received after years of waiting. Even the same cashier greeted me by name, and when one of the former lieutenants spotted me in the aisles, he came over and told me my story was now part of their officer training, not the details, but the lesson about respect and the danger of assumptions. Later, a young lieutenant from military intelligence approached, her voice nervous but determined, asking if I'd speak to her platoon about extraction techniques. For the first time, I said yes, within limits, of course. It felt good, stepping out of the shadows, sharing what I could so others might learn something without having to pay the same price. Before I left, General Harris caught me by the exit. We found Specialist Rodriguez's family. He said, one of my team who hadn't made it back. His daughter will get his Silver Star next month. We'd like you there. I agreed, honored to finally see the truth, even a part of it, passed on to those left behind. That day, I saw myself in the car window, standing taller, smiling for real. After 2 decades living in the margins, fighting for every scrap of recognition, I was finally part of the story again, not just the footnotes. The shadows will always be there. Some things will always stay secret. But now there's a space where what we did matters, where the next generation can learn not just from the victories, but from the mistakes, the sacrifices, the humanity. And maybe that's the point, that we don't do it for the glory or the medals or even the recognition, but so that when someone's watching, they see more than just a jacket. They see the story, the struggle, and maybe, just maybe, they choose to listen. So what do you think? Is it ever right for secrecy to outweigh justice? When do we draw the line between what should be known and what must stay hidden? I'd love to hear your thoughts, share your story, your take on what respect and recognition really mean in our community.